So did trade school feel like an extension of high school?
That it didn't. It did not. I enjoyed it a lot more than high school for sure.
Yeah.
You're around peers going through similar things as you, so that helped. I've built a few friendships through school as well, and the teachers were also, come from blue collar paths and were easy to relate with, and I thought it was much easier and more enjoyable for sure.
Yeah. Did you ever feel like it wasn't doable, or like you got these kids that are like, I shouldn't say kids, I should quit saying that. You got these individuals that are like, the last thing I want to do is go to school, but trade school is not like what you think of school.
No, it's really not. The few nights a week, the 2 nights a week for a few hours. Yeah, it sucks at times, those days you're working extra long and those harder days and harder nights and, but at the end of the day, you're there for a few hours twice a week. And, most of the time I feel like the homework is pretty minimal, and it's only for a short period of time.
I don't feel like it's busy work either. It's not like, hey,
no,
write an essay on Henry Ford and make sure
it's not like high school and that
words.
stuff where they're making you write a 10-page paper for just to make you do it.
Yeah.
It's just you're there to learn certain things, and as long as you're covering the curriculum and learning what you need to, and
it's actually pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Because you're learning how to be better at what you're learning in the field, and so you're learning the physical, what it takes to install the product, and then you're learning why it works that way. And for me, it was almost like a snowball where the more I installed and the more I learned, the more I wanted to install, the more I learned. It was almost exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you have good teachers and you have bad teachers, but
yeah, you get some of both. And
yeah,
you suffer through the bad teachers to get to the good ones, and the good ones are really good, and those are the ones you learn from, and those are the times, at least for me, that I enjoyed the school more because I was actually learning something versus just going and sitting there and listening to some guy drag on for a few hours.
So I was probably a decade behind you, or you guys were probably a decade behind me in school. Did you guys have much homework? Because I don't remember much homework, and most of it was like you go and do your studying, and it's almost like a seminar.
Yeah.
Really go and sit through a seminar or a.
Yeah, there wasn't, at least for me, there wasn't much. It might be do this one chapter in the book and answer the questions or do this little stuff here and there. But for the most part, it's all just done in class and, at night. And
how much math do we use? Lots of math.
Yep.
That totally caught me off guard.
Yeah,
Yep. That's where I remember the majority of my homework being was just in math.
Yeah.
Other than that, there wasn't too much, but
tons
of math.
It's simple, basic algebra. But that's one thing I would tell an apprentice. If you really struggle with math, you might want to get that dialed in beforehand because it's a lot of multiplication and division.
Mm-hmm.
Simple algebra, but we use that all day, every day.
Yeah, and that's when it's good to have, people, good teachers to help with that and help teach, for those kind of calculations and those things where we really use it. And, a good journeyman or foreman that also has experience and knows that stuff that can help teach you.
Yeah.
Help you grow in that aspect.
I think the best part about math, though, is once you understand that principle, it doesn't change.
Yeah. No, it's the same.
Once you know 2 times 2 is 4, you're good to go.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
It doesn't. So even if you have a hard time comprehending it, once you know the process of how to figure out what you need, then you're good to go. Were you guys raising a family and working and going to school at the same time?
Yeah.
Both of us were, I think. Yep.
Yeah, definitely.
Studs. Look at that. Look at you go.
Yep. Help motivate for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely keeps you going.
Yeah. When you got mouths to feed,
Yep.
You're doing something for more than just yourself, right?
Yeah. We had our second when I was finishing my 4th year of school.
You have to register with the state, have your 4 years in the school, have 8,000 hours in the field, which is essentially 4 years of full-time work, right?
Yeah.
Basically 1,800 to 2,000 hours a year. Then what's the next step after that?
Test.
The test,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
How what was your guys' experience with the test?
I know it's a lot different now than what I had to do. For me, I always was terrible at taking tests. I always struggled with that, but I passed it and, but one thing is I also took it as soon as I could after I finished school, which I think that's where a lot of guys get hung up and, hurt themselves as they wait too long after they finish school to go take the test, because as soon as you finish school, most of that knowledge, if not all of it, is still there, and you don't have, I still studied a little bit before I took my test and just kind of went over a few things that I knew I might struggle with. But the quicker you do it, the easier it'll be on yourself. But I even had some guys in my class that I ran into years later. I'm like, oh, so you got your journeyman now? No, I still didn't take my test. I'm just like, why not? What was the point of going through all that schooling and and they're still doing electrical work? What was the point of doing all that and then not going and taking your test?
Right.
Like, I've never been able to understand it.
My experience with the test, so I waited over a summer, and that was a big mistake.
Yeah.
I was a procrastinate that summer, and just didn't get around to it. And that test is, if you care about the trade, it is a tough test. You just have the pressure of yourself on it.
Yeah.
It's nothing that's, it's achievable for sure. It's designed to be achievable. But I just remember going in and I had psyched myself out really bad, actually. So I did not pass the first time, but ended up getting it again, and ended up getting it the second time. So
yeah,
it was good.
And I think whether you pass or you don't pass it the first time or second time, whatever, it really doesn't matter. It's more of a bragging rights with the guys. But I passed the test on the first time. It actually took me 5 years to get a 4-year degree, because I took a job out of the country there for the last 6 months of my 4th year.
Mm-hmm.
So I took one semester of my 4th year, and then I left the country for a while, and then I waited a full year, and then I took my second semester because I was the same way. I'm like, oh, I'll just go jump online. I'll do it by myself. I didn't have the self-discipline at the time to raise a family and go to work and do night school on my own. So it was much better to go back to my 4th year or my 5th year and take my second semester and then pass the test. But then I needed my Wyoming journeyman license a couple years later, and they were not reciprocating at the time, meaning you could just show them your Idaho license. They would give you a Wyoming license. They were like, no, we don't like Idaho. So I had to take my Wyoming test, and I failed my Wyoming test. So I had to retake it again. So with the journeyman exam, what was your experience with that? What was that testing experience like?
Well, for me, it was, there was a few calculations, but mostly just, making sure that you could answer certain questions, what color is a green ground screw? That's always one that gets thrown out in class, just joking around. But, mostly just making sure that you understand the code book and how it works, and that you can find those certain things and answer those certain questions and be able to do certain code calculations, or, understand it.
I mean, it is a certified test that's overseen by the state or some type of proxy. So you have to go to a location. I've had to go to Blackfoot. I've had to go to Pocatello. Now I think they have one here in Idaho Falls where you go in. You have a 5-hour long time frame to complete the test, which honestly you actually probably need most of that 5 hours.
Yeah, everybody I've talked to, they're like right at the time limit, just finishing up.
Yep. And they really do just test you on what's inside that code book, making sure you understand what it needs. Like, hey, there's a range that's that's got this load. What size wire do you need to pull for it? What kind of breaker are you going to put on it? And they test you on everything, and it tests you on such a wide range that we end up answering questions on what are you going to do on this boat dock in a marina? What are you going to do in this airplane hangar? What are you going to do in this hazardous location where there's fuel and explosives? Like, how do you wire this stuff? And so they just want to make sure you have all those bases covered. 5 hours long. There's only certain materials you can come in. Yeah, it's scary. Yeah, it sucks, but I mean, it's worth it.
Very much so. And they just want to, the state just wants to be sure that you can find all of those, any situation you may come into. You just got to be able to find it. The time crunch turns into, I don't know, when I took it, it was 2 minutes a question or something like that is what we had.
Yeah.
If you averaged it out, it's just all about navigating the code book proficiently. So.
Yeah, it really is. And you're allowed to tab your code books. You have quick references. You're allowed to have some notes, stuff like that. But
you'll have questions that you answer right off the bat. You don't even have to think about, because it's more of a simple question. Yeah. And those are nice, because then it gives you more time to spend on the ones that take a little bit more time to find the answer in the code book, or to do the equation to find what you need. I think I had some swimming pool questions, which was nice, because we've actually done a few swimming pools, and so we do know some of that stuff,
And you don't have to know it, but you just have to know how
but
to
you have
find
to
it.
know how to find it,
Right.
just knowing where to find it, because we've already looked it up, and but also going through your 4th year, especially, that's when you start at the beginning of the code book and you go through the whole thing. So you got your tabs, you have your notes, so you're kind of get an idea and understand and learn the quickest way to find, what you're looking for and how to get there quicker. I was never a huge fan of the tabs just because I felt like they got in the way, but I got pretty proficient at finding, those sections relatively quick.
Right. And it's an important step in our trade. It'd be like your doctor saying, "Trust me, I know what I'm doing. I don't need to take a test to show you I know what I'm doing. Just let me cut on you."
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, I understand why it's there.
Mhm.
And once you've been in the trade long enough, it's crazy how many code violations, when you walk around, you see all the hazards, you're like, holy cow, especially if you travel to like a second world country, you're like, that's going to kill somebody. That's
Yeah.
going to kill somebody. That's going to kill somebody. I remember traveling one time and there was a hot outlet hanging out of a swimming pool wall. And I'm just like, good grief. They had something plugged into it running like a radio. Live screws are hanging. You could have put your knee against that, stuck your hand in the water, and you'd have never got off that thing.
Oh, jeez.
The test is super important. People get wound up about it, but just go do it. Just get it done.
At the end of the day, it's just a test. If you fail it, you can take it again.
Yeah.
It's not the end of the world. Yeah, it sucks. You'll probably beat yourself up.
In fact, I tell some people, we have some people that have taken the test multiple times. Like, just go take it with the expectation of failing, but at least you get the experience of where it's at, what you need to take, what it looks like, and then you'll know what you need to study, and then go back and take it again, because they do change the test up, so you can't take the same test over and over again. They have hundreds of questions, and they'll test you on whatever it is, 100 of them or 200 of them. I don't even know, I'm sure anymore. But it rotates. So if you go back and take the test again, it's probably going to be a little bit different, very similar, but at least you understand, like, oh, I don't know anything about grounding or overcurrent protection, or I'm really bad on my motor loads or whatever. It's usually grounding, honestly.
Yeah.
Grounding's very tough in our industry.
There's a lot
up.
there.
It's getting it grounded correctly that makes it safe to the public. So if there is a fault, the electricity goes to the earth instead of through you.
Yeah, there's a lot to that for sure. But that's also the bad thing when you're studying for a test. You think, well, I might have a bunch of this, so you get stuck on studying that one thing and really pushing yourself on that, and then you end up going and taking the test, and you had like one question on that, if any. So I know guys, or a couple guys I've talked to, like, well, I really struggle with this, so that's where they put all their effort.
And there's only a few questions. So instead of like, I kind of struggle with that, so maybe I'll make sure I do touch on that while I'm studying. But generally, you just need to kind of study for all of it.
Yeah,
the best,
basically know the book
best you can. Even if you're just going through and just seeing how quick you can find different sections in the code. Because that'll help you out a lot. Just quicker you can get there on the test to the section that has your answer, the better off you'll be.
Yep. Each time I took the test, Idaho, Wyoming, and then I ended up taking master's tests in multiple states. But the night before, I would just go through the code book and look at every single page, just kind of glimpse over at every single page from front to back. And that really helped because it's like fresh in your head. And you'd be surprised how quick you could catalog information and just be like, oh, I remember where that's at.
Yeah.
Once you have that journeyman license, nobody can take it from you. And every 3 years, you have to do some code update to keep that license current.
Yeah, it's really easy to keep it up, and
it's important to keep it up.
It's important, and there's no reason. Well, I guess there's a reason, but if you're just totally out of it and want to let it go. But honestly, for myself, I was to get out of it a little bit. With how easy it is to keep it, I'd probably still keep it up to date.
Yeah,
because you just always have that to fall back on.
Yep.
Just the way the world is, you never know what's going to happen.
That's been our Journeyman Series with Synergy Electric. And if you got any questions, go ahead and hit us up. Travis, thank you for joining us. Really appreciate your input. Nate, of course. You guys are absolute workhorses and studs and great Americans.
Yeah.
Happy to rub shoulders with you.